have higher cholesterol levels, they also have higher rates of these killer diseases. And in populations with lower cholesterol level, have lower rates of these diseases. It's interesting to note that as the cholesterol level go down even more, down to 150, 140, 20, 100, down to 90 milligrams per deciliter, down to 90, all cancers are decreased. All cancers. So we could say that cholesterol is the critical factor. Cholesterol is the critical factor. Do you know what foods contain cholesterol? Anyone? Animal foods, right. So cholesterol is found only in meat, fish, poultry, milk, and eggs. Only in animal foods. Plants do not have any cholesterol. What about our American diet? What is our American diet like? It's high in fat and high in cholesterol. You know, our American diet actually is extremely toxic to our cells. The high fat, high cholesterol, very toxic to our cells. When these cells are exposed to the high fat, high cholesterol diet, they get damaged very easily, particularly the endothelial cells. These are the cells that line the inside of your blood vessels, lining the arteries. How they get injured? When they're injured, your blood flow slows, the blood becomes thicker, they tend to clump together, and then they plug up your blood vessels. So for instance, if a person had hash brown potatoes for breakfast with sausage, that's a high fat, high cholesterol breakfast. When you have that kind of breakfast, within 3 hours, your endothelial cells are damaged very fast. So we know that fatal heart disease risk for a person eating the American diet is 50%. In other words, 1 out of every 2 persons who eats the typical American diet will die of a fatal heart disease, 50%. If, however, that person is willing to cut out his animal products, meat, fish, poultry, and to avoid the refined products, his risk for fatal heart disease will come down to 15%. It's better, 15%. If that person is willing to do even better by cutting out his milk and eggs, his risk for fatal heart disease will drop way down to 4%. Much better. So for a healthy heart, we really need to protect us from the high cholesterol foods. And for those who maybe already have some problems with your heart, I would like to suggest just make one minor change, okay? One minor change. Include some beans, some legumes in your diet several times a week. Just include some beans. And I'll talk more about that this afternoon. Why beans? Because they are rich in many things, but only one thing I'm talking about right now. They're rich in arginine. Arginine is an amino acid which can restore the endothelial cells that I mentioned earlier. It can restore these cells. So just make that one change. Have some beans. If you're not used to it, gradually include some. So we could say that in the studies have shown that animal-based foods will increase total cholesterol and will increase the bad ones, the LDLs. Whereas plant-based foods will decrease total cholesterol and decrease the bad ones as well. What about cancers? In populations that eat high animal foods also have higher rates of cancer. Now in the US, we eat about 70% of our protein from animal and dairy products, 70%. So according to the National Academy of Sciences, that most cancers in the US is due to our typical American diet. For example, colon cancer, very common, colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is very strongly linked to bacon, hot dogs, processed foods. And the American Institute for Cancer Research and the World Cancer Research actually they're urging consumers to cut back on processed foods. Cut back on processed foods because it is so strongly linked to colon cancer or colorectal cancer. For example, if you eat one hot dog, just one hot dog, you can increase your risk for colon cancer by 21%. 21%. One hot dog. What about prostate cancer? Prostate cancer we know is related to the testosterone, the high testosterone. How do we get high testosterone? Again, it is from eating animal products and dairy products. Because testosterone actually can trigger the prostate cancer cells. And so if you were eating foods that's high in these animal protein, then it just accelerates the growth of prostate cancer. Pancreatic cancer is the same. In a huge study by the NIH, National Institutes of Health, involving over 525,000 subjects, they found those who had more red meat, milk, and dairy products had higher incidence for pancreatic cancer. So for any cancers, when a high animal protein diet is prepared or cooked in high temperature, all cancers will increase. In other words, when you prepare your meat or fish or chicken, when you grill or barbecue or fry them, this increases the rate for all type of cancers in the high temperature cooking. This means breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, stomach cancer, all types of cancers. Whenever animal protein is prepared or cooked in high temperature. Diabetes. We know that people who are diabetics generally eat a high cholesterol and high fat diet. In a study involving about 44,000 people, they found those who eat, let's say, 2 hamburgers a week, they will increase their risk for diabetes by 40%. And for those who eat 2 fried chickens a week, that risk for diabetes goes up to 68%. What about eggs? Among men, the egg consumption every day, if you eat an egg a day, your risk for diabetes goes up to 57%. For women, it's even higher, 77%. What about fish? Harvard University did a large study involving 195,000 people over a 20-year period. They found that those who consume fish also have higher rates of diabetes. So, what shall we do? What do we do? First, I want to say we must stop what you've been eating or what you're feeding to your family. Stop and begin to make some changes. More toward this beautiful display here, and I'll talk more about that this afternoon. But I just want to tell you, in this type of foods, there are so many goodness. I call them phytonutrients, so many of them. For instance, I brought a carrot, just in this single little carrot. Now, we all know carrot is high in what? Beta carotene, right? But there are actually over 700 carotenoids. In other words, there's alpha, beta, delta, gamma, all the way down to Z. Over 700 carotenoids, not just beta carotene, in a carrot. It's amazing what this can do, because the carrot, and also spinach too. I have a bag of spinach, very common vegetables. Just in the spinach alone, there are 13 different antioxidants. 13 different antioxidants. This is a good question. So even if you cook it, preferably raw would be better. And now, when the cells, when we are eating a lot of high-fat foods, our cells get damaged. But the nutrients